If today you feel tired, if your life feels repetitive, ordinary, or even meaningless sometimes, then come with me to this place. A poor rental slum, right next to a developing city. A place where elderly people, almost 100 years old, still collect bottles to survive. They are only trying to survive another day.
Bây giờ vẫn ở đâu hả bà?
I am Tuan from Vietnam. Today, I want to take you to a poor rental slum under Long Bien Bridge. This bridge is more than 120 years old. It is one of the historic symbols of Hanoi. From above, you can see the Red River, the old steel structure of the bridge, and the life moving beneath it. But below this bridge, next to piles of trash and construction waste, there is a small community where low-income workers and lonely elderly people live. To enter the slum, I had to walk through a very narrow path. On both sides, wild grass was growing everywhere. Under my feet, there was no proper road, only broken bricks, pieces of concrete, and construction waste. If you are not careful, you can easily hurt your feet. Roads tell you a lot before you even meet the people who live there. Just by walking in, you can already feel how hard life must be here. The slum is built on piles of construction waste, right beside a huge garbage area. Most things here are temporary. Thin metal sheets, old wood, broken doors, patched walls. For the first time in my life, I saw a black stream of wastewater flowing so fast. It carried trash, plastic bags, and a very strong smell. That water flows directly into the river. I stood there in silence for a few seconds. It was hard to believe that not far from the city outside, people were living beside this kind of wastewater every single day. For us, this may be a shocking scene to see once, but for the people here, it is part of daily life. I saw two little children nearby, so I bought each of them a bottle of fruit milk. They looked so happy when they received it. For many children, a bottle of milk is nothing special. But for them, it felt like something very precious. While chatting with the shop owner, I learned a heartbreaking truth. The two little children I had just met were born right here, but they don't even have birth certificates. This means they might never be able to go to school, never receive proper medical care, or have an equal opportunity to find a decent job in the future. As a father, hearing this just broke my heart. I felt an immense pain when thinking about their situation.
Con tên là gì? Cúm à?
I met a 95-year-old woman. Her hair was white, her face was full of wrinkles, and every line seemed to carry a long and difficult life. She once had 2 children. Her son died young, and her daughter went missing. At 95, when most people should be cared for by their children and grandchildren, she still has to collect scrap materials to survive. On lucky days, she earns around $4. On most days, only about 2. But what touched me most was her love for her dog. She held it, stroked it, and kissed it like family. Maybe to her, it is not just a pet, it is her companion, the only family still staying by her side. In that moment, I felt both sadness and respect. Sadness because she still has to work at this age. Respect because after so much loss, she still keeps so much warmth in her heart. Two women are sorting through used clothes donated by a charity group. For some, these clothes might be things they no longer need, but here they can still be used. They might help someone save a little money. I went with two children and took a closer look at the slum. The rooms were mostly built with thin sheets of corrugated iron, old wood, and patched doors. Each room resembled a temporary shelter, more than a real home. Inside, a man in his 70s was sleeping. He usually collected bottles and cardboard boxes at night. After working all night, he returned here to sleep during the day. The room was about 38 degrees Celsius. There was only a small fan. The air was hot and stuffy, but he slept soundly. Looking at him, I could imagine how tired he must be. The room was only about 7 square meters. The toilet and shower area was just a small, temporarily covered corner, damp and cramped, and this room cost about $50 a month. The two children always followed me around. They seemed to lack the attention and love of a family. So when someone showed them affection, they would rush into my arms and cling to me. As a father, I deeply understand the deprivation these children feel from not having their parents close. I stopped in front of a room covered only by a piece of cloth. Inside, an 80-year-old woman was having lunch. Her meal consisted of just a bowl of thin porridge with a few sesame seeds sprinkled on top. Her son was lying in bed. She told me that when her son was about 5 years old, after an illness, he began to have intellectual and mental problems. Their living expenses depended on her collecting bottles and cardboard to sell. I looked around the room. Everything was in disarray. A few old clothes, a few cans of paint, an old mosquito net that had turned black. Perhaps that was where she slept every night. Her arms were very thin. Her feet were deformed due to gout. But when she spoke to me, she still smiled. A gentle smile, a kind smile, a surprisingly radiant smile. She told me that when she was little, her mother abandoned her. Later, she grew up, went to Hanoi, married, and then her husband died prematurely. Her son was her only support, but then he fell ill. She tried to borrow money and take him to many places for treatment, hoping he would recover. But life didn't turn out as she expected. Hearing her story, I didn't know what to say. There are lives burdened with hardship, even when you only hear about them. But those who live such lives still have to go on, still have to smile, still have to struggle to survive each day. As I stepped outside, I met another woman, also around 80 years old. Her eyesight had deteriorated and she could no longer see anything. She had no children, no one to care for her, and very little money left. Most days, her meals were only white rice, pickled vegetables, and fish sauce. Even with her poor eyesight, she still had to do everything by herself, cooking, walking, and taking care of herself. Her savings were almost gone, and no one knew what would happen to her next. Watching her walk slowly and carefully, I couldn't help but wonder. I asked myself, if this were me, how would I keep going? After walking through each room and meeting each person here, my heart was heavy. The lives of the people here are full of hardships, far beyond my imagination. Coming here today, I realized that just having a life is a blessing. Having a roof over my head is a blessing. Having enough food to eat is a blessing. I wish I could do more for them, even though I'm still struggling to support my own family. But I wanted to come back to tell their story more fully and hopefully help them get support from the community, even if it only makes their lives easier for a day or a week. It still matters. If this video touches your heart, I hope it doesn't just make you sad. I hope it helps you feel more grateful for what you have. And it reminds us all to be kinder to those who are less fortunate than you. Because sometimes a small act of kindness can make someone's difficult life a little easier.
Đây mới bị à?